It's a story of gambling, greed, jet setting, bookmaking, breaking the law, and let's throw in the name of one of the biggest baseball players on the planet for good measure. It's the story of Matt Bowyer. Matt Bowyer is going to prison. Before he does, he sat down with me. Make sure you subscribe. 16.2 million.
Yeah,
How much of that money was Ohtani's money, and did he know any of this was going on?
Well, in truth, I mean, he's in prison because all of it was.
What goes off in your head when you think to yourself, one can get me thrown in prison, one won't? What made you say, let me go that other route?
I would say greed and money.
You got away with it.
I did. And instead of learning a lesson and going back to something legal, I actually this is the way I looked at it, which is terrible. If this is the worst, case scenario, then I'm going to go build it bigger and just make more money because I really loved what I was doing. I've lost probably $50-60 million gambling in casinos and bookmakers across the country.
I'm sorry, how much? How much did you say?
Well, I lost 13 million right before I got raided in 1 year in the casino, but probably 50-60 million overall.
This is Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags.
Yeah, as we speak, we're about 9 days away from your sentencing. You have pled guilty. I want to find out what you pled guilty about, the reason why this raid happened with 29 agents. You've got a book out called Recalibrate that I want everybody to go and get because I think recalibrating every so often is important. In your case, it's really, really important. And you've come to terms with what it is that you did that is going to get you probably thrown behind bars for some months, if not more than a year. So I'm going to start from the start. I don't know you that well. You don't know me at all. And I think that's a good place to start in any interview because if I come in with a bunch of knowledge, I might not say the things that should be said. Sure. Bookmaking. It's illegal in most places, but it's not in Las Vegas, right? So why are you in trouble for bookmaking?
Well, to be clear, it's actually what I was doing was illegal in every state because they're never going to give a license to Joe or Matt. That's never going to happen.
Okay.
So the license that in the 38 states it's legal, it's a FanDuel, a DraftKings, one of the major corporations, which of course is creating a ton of revenue. But they're never going to give a license to a regular person. So any bookmaker really that's a regular Joe is not going to be having a license, period. So in the state of California, though, you are correct. There's no sports betting allowed in this entire state. It will be legal here in the next 2 years. But until then, that's really isn't relevant to my case, though, because a lot of people think that. But the reality is if I was in Las Vegas, what I was doing was illegal anyway.
Wow. So bookmaking, being a bookie, just describe in short form, if you don't mind, what that is exactly. It's just me. I walk up, give you some money, say I want to bet on this.
Yeah, so as opposed to you walking into a casino or depositing at DraftKings or FanDuel, you would create a relationship with me. And then, of course, instead of betting on their per app site, you'd be on my site, which really is the same, services the same function. Functionality is you go on my website, you place a bet on Dolphins or Rams or whoever you're betting on.
Right.
And I would in return take that wager. The big difference between me when I was a legal bookmaker and let's call it a DraftKings or a casino is you have to put the money up front with them. The relationship you have with an illegal bookmaker is it's all credit based, and we square up every week with our customers, and clearly we build a relationship. It's a little bit more than just walking into a mom and pop shop or in this case a casino or DraftKings and placing a wager.
And you were extremely successful at this. Like how successful?
I seriously have been doing it since I was 16 years old on a small level, obviously $20, $50 bets when I was a young kid. But it really didn't become serious until I was probably 21, 22 when I started making quite a bit of money as a commodity trader. When I was 19, I passed my Series 3 exam, and I got an opportunity to work for a big commodity firm. And basically, I was working with these young guys who were making a lot of money, gambling, kind of wasting a lot of their dough. And I took advantage of that by being their bookmaker. So when I was making legal money, it was kind of like the movie Wall Street or Boiler Room.
Yeah.
That was kind of the environment I was in. Basically, I just started booking bets and becoming bigger and bigger. And then, of course, when the internet evolved and came around, I scaled the business and became a really big bookmaking operation right when the internet came in because I was able to scale across the country.
It's Matt Bowyer, Bowyer. You can go to mattbowyer.com. Get this book called Recalibrate. Matt, is it out right now?
Yeah, I went on Amazon 2 days ago. It's a great book. It's the story of my whole life from, being a young boy leading to where I am today. What I try to tell in the book, though, the reality is of a Joe is that I've made many errors and many mistakes in my life. And, I've had a gambling addiction myself. I've lost probably $50-60 million gambling in casinos and bookmakers across the country.
I'm sorry, how much? How much did you
probably,
say?
Well, I lost 13 million right before I got raided in 1 year in the casino, but probably 50-60 million overall in a lifetime. Yeah. I mean, I bet $4.6 million on the Kansas City Chiefs in the 2023 Super Bowl. And
on one game.
Yeah, one Super Bowl bet.
Matt, we got to talk, Matt. Well, you're recalibrated now. You realize that the wrongs of the past, and you want to make sure that you go through the rest of your life in a very positive fashion. But I got to ask you, man, what the hell were you thinking? And I don't mean just for that game, but what were you thinking when you're a commodities trader and you're making good money? You're making it legally. Why go to the dark side? Why do something illegal?
I'm really glad you asked this question. Let me tell you why. What I did in commodities legally felt 10 times more immoral than being an illegal bookmaker.
Well, you got to explain that. Really?
Sure. Yeah, because commodities in general, most people lose trading commodities. Back then, this is 1993, 1994, we were charging $95 for a trade, and now it's like $2. So when a client would place an order to buy soybeans, crude oil, gold, whatever it was, they would basically be getting in a market paying $95 for a transaction, and then they would have slippage because back then the computerized systems were more hand gestures. If you watch the movie Trading Places, that would kind of identify what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And what they would do is take advantage of these people that they never had to speak to, because I was the broker that would deal with the clients.
Right.
And so let's say, for example, Joe, you would buy corn and the price of corn is $2.62. Okay. They have 3 minutes to fill that order. So in that 3-minute window, if corn goes from $2.62 to $2.65, which is $150, by the way, for one contract, you're going to get the price at $2.65. So you're already losing $150 on each contract plus the $95 commission. So basically, it was so hard to overcome all these things. I mean, it really wasn't fair. They have since resurrected all that to where computerized systems make it to where it's fair. You buy corn now, it's exactly the price you get. And also the commissions are way less. But my point is, I would call a farmer in Iowa or Kansas, and he's 70 years old, and I would try to convince him to send me half his retirement to invest in the markets, knowing deep down that most likely he's going to lose his money.
Right.
And that sales operation was my job, and it was all legal, but I don't feel morally it was very correct. Fast forward, I became a bookmaker at the same time. The people in my bookmaking operation would come to me and they wanted to gamble. They chose what they would bet on. Yeah. We had good relationships. It was really just entertainment. I'm not defending my actions. I want to make that clear. I still broke the law, and I'm definitely dealing with the consequences for my actions. But for the most part, a client, unless they had a real bad gambling addiction, enjoyed the service. They'd rather bet with a bookmaker because they didn't have to go to a casino. They didn't have to deposit money. Didn't have to, deal with taxes. There's so many things that we took away for a regular person. And in truth, they get to pick a game. Let's say it's a Dolphins and Rams, a good example.
Right.
They bet $500 in the game. Well, guess what? For 3 hours, they're entertained. It's no different than going to a movie or buying dinner or whatever. And on top of that, they could actually win $500. So as long as it's controlled, gambling can be a great thing. The problem is if it gets out of control and you have addiction and things like that, where people start ruining their lives. But back to your point, I felt better doing that because at least the people controlled their own destiny. They could quit when they wanted. They could, and sadly, that's the truth. But going back to where I stand today, Joe, the recalibration of my life, I'll be on stages doing motivational speaking. I'm selling my book. I'm trying to help people with mindset, adversity, dealing with overcoming things that, when you have hurdles in your life, you got to be strong and really use your mind to recalibrate.
Right.
And now it's a win-win. I'm selling a product, which is my book, which is me, and they can win from learning from mistakes I've made, or really just learning from my adversity and mindset. Whereas before, it was I had to win by someone else losing, and that's a truly not a great business. I'm really happy I'm no longer in it.
Go and get this book. It's called Recalibrate. A couple of things I want to fill people in on. You and I are about the same generation. I'm older, but Trading Places was Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, and it was about stock trading. And if I understood the way it worked, the broker would get the order, you'd give it to a runner, they'd run to the floor of the stock market, you'd buy, sell, trade, whatever it was. And you're saying in that time between you getting the order and actually getting the buy or the sell, that the price could change, and they get screwed on that transaction twice.
Yeah, so basically the slippage, we would call it, and that was the term for it, would be, here's an example. You buy corn again at, let's say, 262, but when you place the order, but they fill it at 265, that $3 difference is a slippage that they have the right to fill it within 3 minutes, and they make that money. That's $150 that they just throw in their pocket.
Wow.
But the reality is they filled it at 262. But legally, they had 3 minutes to fill the order. So, of course, they're going to give you the worst price.
So they could charge you for 265 even though they got 262. I mean, that is immoral. I agree with you. But let me go back to your point, Matt, because, yes, it's immoral. And our mutual friend Michael Franzese and I have talked about this a lot, and he gets it too. And I know that you get it, but I want to make sure that those watching, listening get it. Yes, immoral. Yes, not as bad. But one was legal and one was illegal. And guys like you and I should work to make those things legal that make more sense and make illegal the highway robbery. And I know that they've done a lot of changes in the stock market since you were dealing it. But I mean, you knew that one was legal and one was illegal, right? You knew that.
Correct. Oh, for sure.
So to sleep well at night, you rationalized it, which makes perfect sense. What you explained makes perfect sense. I'm not beating you up over it, but what goes off in your head when you think to yourself, one can get me thrown in prison, one won't? What made you say, let me go that other route?
I would say greed and money. Okay. Because I was making so much money.
Matt, you're an honest guy. Holy mackerel. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I like to tell the truth because at the end of the day, it sets you free, and people will respect that. I get judged all the time. People hate me, whatever, love me, whatever the case is. At least you know what you get.
Yes.
But the truth of the matter is, when I'm flying on private jets and I'm gambling $300,000 a hand in baccarat, and my kids are eating caviar, and we're loving it up and enjoying life and going to places that people have never been in their lifetime. I was enjoying that perk, whether it was illegal, funded, or whatever the case is.
Right.
So I can't cry about my situation now because I knew what I was doing, and I enjoyed the perks of it. And the other reason I enjoyed it too is because let's be real. I always try to tell my children to do something in life when it comes to work they're passionate about. And sadly for me, the things I love the most in life was sports and gambling. And if you mix those two, being a bookmaker is a deadly combo for a guy like me.
That's a great point.
So that's really what it was. I enjoyed it. And, it's wrong. And what I did was illegal, and I knew it. And that's why I'm going to prison, and I'll be dealing with that. It's a very tough consequence because I'm a father of 5. I love my wife to death. I don't want to spend a minute away from any of them. Yeah. And that's what I'm facing right now. And not to mention the financial disaster. I had to pay $1.7 million in restitution, which I've already paid. Nobody does that really in general, less than 1%. Right. I paid that in full. And I paid over $9 million in U.S. taxes. So I'm in a situation where I'm paying definitely the cost of the crime.
It is the name of the book is Recalibrate. His name is Mathew Bowyer. Go to MathewBowyer.com and find out more about this young man. He's going to prison, as he just said, 9 days from as we were recording this on the 20th of August. He's going to face a judge and find out what his sentencing is. About a year ago, I guess, is that when the wall started closing in, or did you know even before they raided you that something was afoot?
I didn't know. I was raided actually in 2014, believe it or not.
Okay, wow. Yeah. Well, why were they reporting it a year ago? Because that's when Ohtani's name started coming to the surface.
No, 2014 when I was raided, I didn't learn my lesson. I decided to build my business bigger.
Oh, stop it! Wait! Yeah. Stop! I'm sorry. They raided you, and you said, "Screw it, let's make it bigger."
Well,
help me understand that. Go ahead.
Joe, 14 agents came to my home in 2014. I signed on what they call an abandonment form, which states that they're taking the money that they confiscated. I will not be charged with a crime. And as long as I don't hire an attorney and I basically move forward and go from there, then that's the end of that. And so
Matt, you got away with it. You got away with it.
I did. And instead of learning a lesson and going back to something legal, I actually this is the way I looked at it, which is terrible. If this is the worst, case scenario, then I'm going to go build it bigger and just make more money because I really loved what I was doing. And so that's what I did. And then now I'm dealing with the harsh consequences of being the biggest bookmaker in the country and bigger numbers and celebrities and athletes betting with me. And here we are. I'm going to prison for it. So
well, you seem like an unbelievably intelligent guy. You got away with it. Did you have a feeling of like you were Teflon? Hey, they can't touch me. I can do this as much as I want. In fact, I'll make it bigger. If that slap in the wrist is all I'm going to get, what do I care?
yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I was 39. I had 4 kids. I knew I wasn't going to go back and be a doctor or lawyer. I could have, but the challenges are a little different with 4 kids and, no degree and et cetera. So the easier route, which is the route I chose, was to continue what I was doing and make more doing it. And of course, that's the greed, that's the gambling addiction, that's the lifestyle. It's all the things that pulled me in. No excuses. I'm not a victim. I purely just made a poor decision, and I have to own that. And I'm teaching my children that. I mean, I made some poor decisions, and you have to deal with them. And it's no different than, you do something wrong, and if you're not accountable and you don't deal with it, then you never really learn from it. I finally am actually learning that, hey, what I was doing was not only wrong, but I was so greedy and so caught up in everything that the consequences are finally to the point where I have to make a change. And I'm actually really happy I did, because I'm a better human being for it. Clearly, I'm more present with my children, and being involved in the gambling world and flying on a jet every couple of weeks to Vegas may seem luxurious, and it was, but it also was very overwhelming. It was consuming my whole life.
Matt, I got to ask you. So was it 10 years of you getting away with it again, and then suddenly the connection to Ohtani? And again, you don't know the baseball player. You dealt with his interpreter, right?
Yeah, I was around the baseball team and near him, but he doesn't speak English. And to be honest, I never had conversation with him.
Right.
But yes, my relationship was directly with the interpreter, and he was a great guy. I feel terrible. It's another part of the guilt in this. I mean, there's two things that I feel guilty for. Number one, I have a guy who has a gambling addiction who's in prison for 57 months. And even though he's a grown man and made his own decisions just like I did, I still feel like, obviously, I have a part in that because of my operation. I didn't know that he was stealing. I didn't know, I knew he had a gambling addiction because clearly he was paying me a lot of money.
Right.
But the worst part of it is, in truth, is that my job as a father and a husband is to provide and protect.
Yes.
And for the first time in my life, I'm not able to do that. I'm going to be in prison. So that's probably the biggest guilt I have in everything, and the biggest resentment I have towards myself.
Well, how do you make that connection with him? And again, this is not about the baseball player himself, about his interpreter. This is what the NBC4 story was that I played before we started. Was all about. Did that put you back on the radar because of the close connection to a star baseball player, or had they been watching you the whole 10 years between the time they rated you in 14 and the time they did again a year ago?
I don't believe they ever stopped watching me. Because at the end of the day, once you're doing something in the gray area or legal, I think they're always kind of keeping tentacles on you, but.
Right.
They don't really tell you, of course. That being said, when I was raided, it wasn't because of Shohei Ohtani's interpreter betting with me. It was because of the Las Vegas fallout of money laundering and allowing the KYC rule and all these things that are happening currently in Las Vegas, which I don't know. You haven't done a lot of homework on the case, which you admitted. Basically, Las Vegas is having a lot of trouble right now by allowing illegal bookmakers, probably drug dealers, anyone doing in the gray area, even the weed business, which is now legal, state-wise, but not federally here in California, at least in a lot of states. And let's be real, the feds aren't not really happy with allowing, them to come into the casinos and money launder, move money through their cash, et cetera. So they came hard on Las Vegas, on the casinos, to uphold the KYC. And I believe that's what led to me, to be honest with you, because I was such a large customer there. And obviously, there was, I'm sure you heard this part, the CEO of Resorts World got fired.
Yeah.
He had a big fine, and there's a lot of shakeup still going on. And Las Vegas numbers are down drastically because of this case. And I feel like I'm partially the fall guy for some of that. But at the end of the day, I mean, again, I'm not a victim. I want to be clear. It's part of the deal. It's
Matt Bowyer. Go to mattbowyer.com. Get his book called Recalibrate. Let me ask you this. You're spending all this money. You're dropping $4 million on one game. You're actually legally betting in Las Vegas, where you said a baccarat game could be $400,000 a throw, something like that. Where did you think the government thought you were getting all this money? I mean, did you have something that looked legitimate? Were you laundering the bookmaking money some other way? I don't want to get into anything that you haven't admitted in court, but at the end of the day, the IRS looks at me for the $2,000 I didn't claim or something, or accidentally left out of a 1099. They had to be watching you very closely for that reason, no?
Yeah, well, Joe, in truth, I paid a ton of taxes. It wasn't, it does, when you read this report, which is all sensationalized, it says 10 years for money laundering, 5 years for falsified tax return, and 3 years for bookmaking. And again, I want to be clear, I was committing a crime.
Yes.
But in 2022, I lost over $4 million in the casinos, through sports books, gambling.
Legally.
And in that gambling process, legally.
Yeah.
And in that process, my CPA and I wrote off gambling losses against gambling gains in my business. That is illegal because I was running an illegal business. I'm not allowed to, even though I was hedging some of my action through my website. I wasn't allowed to. I didn't know that. I thought that I could write off my gambling, offset my gambling losses against my wins. But because it was a different business, they wouldn't deem that plausible. So that's why the taxes that I owe are a falsified tax return. So if you look at my taxes, I paid over $680 something thousand in income in 2022. And that's a fact. I mean, that's really what I made. But the reality is the $4 million I lost in the casinos and sports books, I wasn't able to write off. And that's where I committed a crime.
It's all so gray, Matt. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I like to go and play some video poker every once in a while. I'll win a couple of bucks here, I'll lose a couple of bucks there. I'm not a high stakes guy at all. But I would have to imagine that first of all, I love your perspective. I think it's a story of redemption. It's a story of recalibration. Go get his book called Recalibrate. But in your heart of hearts, it's got to really not make a lot of sense that you can have all these sports, gambling, all these companies, these corporations, and somehow that's okay, but you couldn't do what you were doing. And I don't know that any of it's okay, I'll be honest with you. Somebody actually approached me about doing one of these sports gambling websites or apps, and I said no, because I don't know enough about it, and I'm not a big gambler guy. But does it play with your moral compass to know that they can all do it because it's a company, but when you did it, you're going to go spend time in federal prison now? I mean, I'm confused by that.
Yeah, actually, it's funny, Joe. There's a lot of guys, well, it's sad, actually, shouldn't say funny. There's a lot of guys that are sitting in prison right now for weed, selling, marijuana.
Right.
And now it's legal.
Yes.
And I can only imagine how they feel. I don't want to, the one thing I've tried to do and really teach my kids in particular is that it's really easy to point fingers and blame other people for what I'm dealing with. But I don't ever want to do that because even though I don't agree with all the laws and I think some of them are unjust, and to be honest, I think, it really could be silly if you look at as far as a guy who's in prison right now for selling marijuana, but yet there's people doing it legally.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't. But to me, I don't want to sit here and say, poor me, I'm a victim. I just want to accept responsibility because when I was flying high and enjoying the lifestyle and spending money and driving a Rolls Royce and all these great things I was doing, I knew what I was doing. So at the end of the day, I don't want to even complain or try to point fingers outside of that. Just own the actions, deal with the consequences, do my time, come out, rebuild myself. I plan on doing motivational speaking. Right now I'm filming for a documentary, and clearly there's a screenplay that I have an offer for a screenplay that
Good.
I'm hoping to see, go somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not trying to alleviate you from the guilt, and you admitted your guilt. You're going to face the sentencing. That's not why I asked the question. I asked the question because watching them succeed, and I'm talking about a multi-billion-dollar business where you are basically doing the same thing. And we started this interview with you saying an individual can't do it, but a company can. Why?
Right.
Do you know why?
That part that's totally unjust. So I think it's all about money. The only thing I could say to counteract that in some degree is they have to make sure that the person taking the wagers can cover the bets.
Okay.
But there's a way to do that. You can have a bond. There's so many ways to guarantee that the person is running the operation correctly. I believe it's all money-based. Let's be honest. If there's kickbacks or people being paid, as far as from DraftKings or FanDuel or these large companies,
right?
Governments, obviously making a lot of money. You have the NFL, you have the NBA. They're all making money off this stuff now. So before gambling was taboo. Now it's not taboo. Now they got Jamie Foxx and LeBron James,
Yeah.
on commercials telling these kids to go to DraftKings and FanDuel and place wagers, etc. What's going to happen, though, Joe, that's something that's very important. These young kids that are 20, 21, 22 are all creating a serious gambling addiction that really isn't being talked about.
Right.
And just wait to see what happens in 5 years. You're going to see, sadly, a lot of problems because right now the money that they're gambling is so minute. They're in college or small, low-end jobs, not making a lot of money yet, and it's not affecting their lives to the degree it will. And I really feel terrible for what the future upholds when it comes to gambling, when it comes to these young kids, 21 to 30 years old.
And what kind of a message is it, Matt, to teach a young athlete that, generally speaking, a lot of them come from a low-income neighborhood. Suddenly they find riches. They meet a guy like you, or they meet somebody, let's go with the actual big ones, the FanDuels and the other ones. I mean, they meet somebody like that. They somehow, become affiliated with that. And most of these former athletes that don't last very long in the big leagues end up wasting every cent, then they're thrown to the curb. I mean, this is a very bad example because now other people from the neighborhood are going to see what they did. Well, if he's on FanDuel, I'm going to get on FanDuel. If he's on whatever the other ones are, I'm going to get on that one as well. DraftKings, whatever it happens to be. And I'm not cutting them down. These are legal businesses. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, but I do have a problem with what we're teaching people. Everybody in every walk of life. I wanted to be a professional baseball player when I was growing up. Didn't happen, obviously. But everybody wants to get that big taste of the big game. Most of them will never get anywhere near that, but they will wear the shoes they wear. They will wear the clothing they wear. They will go to the betting site that they go to. So how do we stop that? What message can you give people who are worried about that?
It's a big concern because, again, when they see LeBron James promoting FanDuel and DraftKings, which I don't blame them, they're using a guy that these young kids look up to.
Right.
Clearly, they're going to follow their mentors, but they have to have the similar message where there's always a disclosure about the negative side of gambling, but let's be real. They're not really giving the other perspective of what gambling can do and how addiction can really, take over somebody's life and ruin it. And I've seen it. I've been part of it. I've lost so much money gambling myself. I clearly have a gambling addiction, and I had the business to back it up and to fund it. The problem is that, like you said, these young athletes that are poor neighborhoods who come out and they're exposed to this. Here's the issue. What if they never make it, or they get to the NFL, they get clipped and cut? Or what if they get there and they start creating a gambling addiction where they owe a bookmaker or owe so much money where they got to rig a game or throw a game? Well, you're seeing it happen now where a pitcher from the Guardians is throwing a ball on purpose and people are betting prop bets to take advantage of that.
Right.
These are the bigger concerns too, because now you have games that are being rigged or thrown or pitches or prop bets. And, when you have a guy who has a gambling problem, especially at a young college career, it's going to be real easy for somebody to take advantage of that and say, look, you owe me this much money. Here's what I need you to do. And throwing games and stuff like that is a big concern going forward. And it's starting to happen quite a bit.
Mathew Bowyer, go to MathewBowyer.com. Get his book. It's called Recalibrate. He's going to be sentenced in 9 days to go to prison because of what he's admitting to doing here and what he spells out in the book. Take me to October 5th, 2023. 29 federal agents stormed the house. Just walk me through that because I can't even imagine.
Yeah, that was rough. I was 9:30 in the morning, walking outside with my son. He's 2 years old at the time. I put him in my wife's G-Wagon car seat, and I heard FBI freeze. I look over my left. There's 8 AR rifles at my chest, red dots, and full gear. And then I realized this is a very serious moment. So I grabbed my son. They didn't cuff me because I was holding him. And then, of course, they stormed the house and brought my wife out cuffed, and she was crying, and a handyman who was painting. And it was a long 8 hours, and I knew my life was changing drastically. But I'll be honest with you, it was a very big moment for me in two ways. One, in a negative, putting my family through this, but truly it was like a transparent moment of like, it's time to move on with my life and do something better. And I hope to give back and truly inspire people to overcome adversity, stay away from addiction. Again, gambling could be great if you know how to use it in the right format for entertainment and fun, and it's controlled. Nothing wrong with gambling. But for the people that have addiction, they need to steer clear of it. It's just going to create a really big problem. So I'm hoping that I use this moment to really show my kids and really just change lives, including my own. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Did you have any indication that was going to happen that day?
No, zero. Definitely not. I just got off a plane from a jet from Las Vegas, from Resorts World, where they flew me and about 8 of my friends to the Dallas Cowboys game on a private jet all the way from Vegas to watch the game and then fly back. And then, of course, gambled for 3 days there, flew home. And then 2 days later, I was raided by the FBI.
Wow. Now, you were the darling of Las Vegas. I'm sure everybody knew who you were. You walked around. You're the big guy, flying around private jets, dumping $400,000 on one throw, millions of dollars in gambling while you're there. I mean, you were the king of Las Vegas in some sense. What happens in the aftermath? I'm guessing that they all said, well, Matt who? We don't know Matt Bowyer. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely became a taboo name in that entire state, which is sad because I loved going there and I had a lot of great memories and people, even dealers and pit bosses and kind of people that I built relationships with. Even though I'm not seeing them all the time, it's almost like you become friends with them. And in truth, a lot of great times and relationships that I miss. That being said, I'm not welcome in any casino in the country. I'm not allowed to gamble. And I feel like I'm being tabooed in the wrong light because there's a lot of people that, well, let me be transparent. Almost every single person knew I was a bookmaker walking in there.
Right.
They're all acting as if they didn't and, looking the other way, of course, with a blind eye. But the reality is I've been going to Las Vegas since I was 21 and they definitely weren't following all the KYC rules. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But again, me being the fall guy in this whole thing, I'm just diving into it, learning that it's time to turn this into something positive. And instead of pointing fingers, I'll be back. And when I'm back, it may be in a different light, but I'll be back.
Was it hard for you to take accountability, Matt? Because a guy like you, riding as high as you did, I'm sure you felt above reproach. You get raided 10 years earlier, and you feel like nothing happened, so you're even stronger than you ever were. What did it take? Was there a moment where it was divine, where you said, I need to sit down and really admit what I've done here so I can go on with my life? Was that hard for you?
Yeah, it was because the minute I was raided, I was told by my attorneys to not speak, which I did for about, I'm going to say 8 or 9 months. I just shut my mouth and
Wow.
Reporters came to my home almost every day, walking my dogs. I mean, Japanese reporters from Japan were flying in.
Right.
I owned a jiu-jitsu studio. They were showing up there. So, my kids go to school or, talking about it. And then as time went by, I really realized, Joe, I wasn't being myself. I've always been a person, if there's a problem, I just run to the fire and deal with it. And I've created many problems in my life, but that's just something I don't sit on. So I finally just started creating social media. I never had any social media. And back in September of last year, I opened an Instagram account. Everyone was like surprised, all my friends and family, because it's so polar opposite of me.
Right.
And instead of hiding from the cameras, I just started being honest and transparent, owning my situation. And what I realized is, Joe, I've really gained a lot of followers and a lot of people that supported me. I've got a lot of hate too, don't get me wrong. But the reality is people respect that I'm just owning my situation and putting myself out there. And I think there's a lot of people that are afraid to do that in life. And we all make mistakes. The common mistake is to like put your head in the sand and bury it and just, maybe resort to drugs or alcohol or depression. I'm choosing the opposite. I'd rather just learn from this and give back and try to show people that when you do have these situations, just deal with it because you can overcome it and be stronger. It's all mindset. My mindset is stronger than it's ever been. And I'm trying to get people to learn from that and actually be inspired. And by doing that, I've actually gained like these, I'm going to call it social media family, like true support.
Right.
I got people buying my book, asking to send me money, random people, literally, I want to donate money to your family. I'm like, no, thank you. It's so kind.
Right.
But these are people I've never met in my life. And it's truly been inspirational to see what I've given and what I'm getting back.
Although most of us will never, do the same thing that you did, all of us, need to sit down and reflect and feel accountable for what it is that we do and don't do. I think people see themselves in a story like yours because you're not being that guy who is still quiet. You're now putting yourself out there on Instagram. What is the Instagram, by the way? What's the handle?
Yeah, it's at Mathew Bowyer 5.
Okay.
I think you'll enjoy my Instagram because it's true. It's most people on social media just fluff everything, and they have the best relationship, and their kids are all happy, and everything's hunky dory. I get that. I mean, why would people want to show the bad parts of their life? But for me, I'm just actually talking about everything I'm doing. I talk about when I have to go do a drug test. I've never done drugs my entire life, but when I walk into a courtroom and I have 30 people in line, and I'm standing there when I'm supposed to, right now I'm hustling, selling turf for a living, trying to make money.
Right.
And I have to drive down to the Orange County Federal Court building, stand in line and go pee in a cup with an officer standing 2 feet next to you to make sure you don't bring in, pee, so to speak, turning on a faucet up and down. And, just these little tiny things that people don't realize in a federal case I talk about all of it, and none of it's fun. It's not like I really want to talk about it and show this negative side of things that you go through, but putting it out there and just being transparent, I think really helps people understand there's more behind the curtain, and it really shows who I am.
Mathew Bowyer 5 over on Instagram. I just now followed you. You've got to follow me back at Joe Talk Show. Yeah, go and do that. I'm kicking your ass on Instagram. We're going to have to raise your game a little bit, but you got a very quick following, so that's good. $9 million? Is that how much the interpreter lost betting with you?
No, 16.2 million.
16.2 million?
Yeah,
how much of that money was Ohtani's money, and did he know any of this was going on?
Well, in truth, I mean, he's in prison because all of it was.
Wow.
So yeah, he was even calling the bank and acting as Shohei, and then having wire transfers sent. Yeah. So it was a bad situation. I truly had no idea he was stealing the money. Clearly, I don't want to ever be involved in any form of fraud.
Right.
I'm not an angel, but I definitely, I wanted to make a lot of money, and I definitely been greedy, but I definitely didn't want to be involved in something like this. And
well Matt, I want to stop you because it really jumps into my brain, and I'm like, you're taking the bets from the guy. You're not bad. You were doing what you were doing. You know that it's illegal. You admit it now. Recalibrate, great book. Go and get it. Recalibrate. Follow him everywhere. But where does this guy get $16 million? You know what I mean? Was there any inkling in your head where you said, where's this guy getting his money?
Oh, for sure. I'd be completely lying otherwise. So let me say this to you. When I met him, Joe, I gave him an account for $1,000 a game, $8,000 credit line.
Okay.
Which for a normal person, that's a very normal account size, right? He lost the 8,000 very quickly, and then he asked me to extend it. I extended the credit line. He asked me to extend it again. Next thing you know, it was $300,000, right? Well, I wasn't really worried about being paid because it was Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, number one.
Right.
And he's seemed to be very honorable. He immediately wired the $300,000. So then he asked me for a $500,000 credit line. So I gave it to him. He lost the $500,000. He immediately wired it. So everything he asked, he did. If you look at the text messaging, which the government put out on record for the whole world to see, you'll see that our conversation, I think there's 70 texts, it says he makes fun of himself, like jokingly. He says, "Oh, I'm so bad at this, Matt. Give me another 500,000.
Wow.
Oh, I'm so bad at this. Give me another." And I keep doing it because two reasons. One, I'm greedy and I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
Two, I'm providing a service that he requested. He never seemed to be distraught. And I never asked questions because I personally, at that time, I wasn't sure if it was Shohei Ohtani or him. And frankly, I didn't care because I was just providing the service. Now, in hindsight, should I have asked him? Probably, of course. I mean, I wish I could have stopped this from getting out of control, or for him and Shohei. And I didn't want baseball to be affected by this. So that's why it was the fastest case in the history of the FBI that was open and closed. And they wanted to get that horse back on the field because baseball wanted to make their money. And the game, I did not want to suffer. And thank God he went on to have the best season of his life, 50-50, World Series champion, MVP, all of that. And I didn't want this guy to have a taboo to his name. I think Shohei Ohtani's amazing.
I got to ask you, Pete Rose obviously was out of the Hall of Fame, out of baseball completely because he bet on baseball. Had this interpreter bet on baseball, Matt, would that have bothered you? Because he didn't, right? It was all soccer.
It would have been a problem for sure, because then I would have not worried about, are they throwing games? Is there some sort of fixing going on? And by the way, Pete Rose was my client and friend of mine before he passed.
Wow.
Great guy. But as far as worrying about baseball, I definitely checked to make sure there was no baseball bets, and then it was definitely thank God he wasn't doing that, because I didn't want that to be an issue.
You're going to prison soon, and that sucks, and I'm sorry, because you seem like a really cool guy, and I'm glad that we got to meet beforehand. Maybe we get together afterwards. When you go to prison, what's the perspective? What's the mindset? You're going to go in, you're going to come out different, the same, you're prepared? Just give me the mindset.
Well, let's be real. I don't think anyone who goes to prison is going to come out the same. My mindset is very simple. I'm going to take the time to reflect, educate myself even more, clearly work out, spend time on my mind, and just really just understand that there has to always be consequences for your actions. And there's a rule that Susie Welch put out. It's called 10-10-10. And I really teach that now. If you think about every major decision in your life, 10 steps ahead, whether it's 10 hours, 10 days, and 10 years before you make them, I think you're really going to make sure you don't put yourselves in a position where I'm at. And when I was a young kid, I was, I had a baby at 19 years old. I was struggling. I never was handed anything in my life. No excuses, but I just hustled and I figured it out. And sadly, I got pulled into something that I love, sports and gambling. And that was my passion. So here I am dealing with the consequences many years later. But the moral of the story is when I go to prison, I will come out bigger, stronger. I hope to have a documentary. I hope to have a screenplay. I clearly hope to be on stages doing great motivational speaking.
Right.
And I hope people follow me and get some inspiration and learn from my mistakes and actually give me a what I call an underdog chance of rebuilding my career, because I know I'm going to make more money than I ever have.
I love it. Recalibrate. I mean, it's a great perspective. Go and get the book, Recalibrate. This is Matt Bowyer. Go and get that. Last question, Matt. I hope that we can reconnect after you get out. And again, I hope they're very light with you, because it sounds like you're just a new man. Just tell me about your family's perspective. Are they prepared for this? Because as you said, I'm the father of 5 daughters. I get it. I've got 2 grandkids.
Okay.
So, I mean, I understand. We want to be the protector, the bear that protects the family. What is their perspective going in there? They're not gonna be used to not having you around.
No, it's going to be tough. I mean, luckily, I mean, I won't be away for, 10 years or anything crazy, but it's still, I don't care. One day is going to feel like forever. The hardest part is going to be my 4-year-old boy and my 14-year-old daughter. My older children, they're adults. They're 30, 26, and 22. And I've provided them an amazing life, and they're very grateful. I've been very transparent their entire life. They all know what I do. And we all knew this day could occur. I've been very honest about it. And when it occurred, now we're dealing with it. And I'm really trying to teach them that I made a mistake and I was greedy. And once again, I always like to say that because it's the truth. And now I'm dealing with the consequences, and I want them to never do something of this magnitude and always stay on the right path. But my 4-year-old just brought, I was like 3 days ago, he put on his little T-Rex costume for Halloween, came up to me. It was one of the harder moments I had in my life. Daddy, look at my T-Rex, Halloween. Will you be T-Rex for Halloween with me? And I looked at my wife and I about lost it. And I said to her, her name's Nicole, I said, I'm not going to be here for Halloween. And that was the first real moment. And then my wife started crying. And so we're realizing the reality of the situation is becoming, more apparent. And so I just try to keep them all strong, because at the end of the day, this being the father of 5, you have to be strong. You are, in my opinion, we are the king of the house, and
yes,
they need to have that strength with us, right? So I'm trying to be strong myself.
It's a story that I'm glad that I've learned more about from you directly. I didn't want to learn about it beforehand, because sitting down with you and getting it from you, I hear the emotion, I hear the strength, I hear how you have recalibrated, which is amazing. Go get this book, Recalibrate. And again, you do that, and then you have a new path in life. A guy like you is going to be successful no matter what you do. That's obvious. As a commodities trader, as a business owner, as a gym owner, the jiu-jitsu gym, that's clear. I wish you hadn't gone off the path, and I wish that you weren't facing what you're facing, but in many ways it's really good, because now it teaches a lesson to those who might go off that path as well, to lean into your strengths and not do something that's illegal. I want to give you the last word on this, Matt, and I really appreciate the time. Go ahead.
Well, my advice is, if you are doing something in the gray area and you have an opportunity to fix that and move back into the right side of the fence, now's your time. The reality is that we all have a story. Everyone has a story in life. Some are bigger than others. And in our mind, we always think that everybody cares so much about what we're doing and what's going on. The reality is nobody cares. What you need to do is look in the mirror, figure out what your purpose is and what your passion and how you define success in your life. And I hope that it's something legal. And whatever that is, dive into that passion, go hard, use your mindset, continue to battle adversity. That's something that I'm doing right now. And I hope people learn from that.
Matt, thanks for the time today. Let's connect before you get sentenced. I want to find out what the mindset the day before or something. And I don't mean on the air. I'm just going to send you a text or whatever. And go in there knowing that you're going to come out even stronger than you are now. And you're a pretty strong dude as it is. Thank you for the time. Thank you for writing the book, Recalibrate. Go and get it right now. It's available now. His name is Matt Bowyer. Go to mattbowyer.com. And again, it's Bowyer is his last name. And the first name is Matthew. So it's matthewbowyer.com. Go there right now. Go with grace and come out even stronger, my brother. Good to see you.
Joe, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. And great to meet you. And I look forward to talking to you in the future.
I look very forward to that as well, my friend. Thank you so much. That's it for Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags for this episode. Another one to drop very soon. If you like what we just laid down, make sure that you subscribe.